Thank you, Matt. Yeah, we met 14 years ago at UPMC, and it's been a great friendship and great professional relationship. And as well, thank you to Amanda and team for inviting me to speak with you today. So I won't bore you with the details of my background and career. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. I would encourage you to reach out and say hello if we're not already connected. But I was a chief information officer of a private equity-backed company for 7 years recently after UPMC and after several years at Mylan, leading enterprise architecture, reporting into Michael Smith there. And the time that I was at Wrench Group, the company I was the CIO of, we did so much with, I don't want to say so little, but with kind of a very modest IT team. When I started, I had 1 employee and 2 consultants, and we grew that to over 45 employees. A lot of great vendor partners, Verizon, Archon in Chicago. Why I'm sharing that with you is I exited Wrench Group in September 24 for a variety of reasons. It was a great run. We went through 2 transactions. The C-suite there was extremely supportive of my interest in going to my next whatever it might be. What I knew was that if I didn't spend time focusing on AI and the tsunami, Cheryl and Sarah, someone on that panel referred to it as a tsunami. If I didn't do that, then I was not going to be in a good position to further my career either as a CIO, Chief Data and AI Officer, CTO. I love the term Chief Transformation Officer. Any Chief Transformation Officers in the audience? That seems like a pretty cool title. But what I want to do first is I want to run through a visual illustration of what Humalogy is. And why I bring that up is when I left Wrench Group and went on this speaking circuit and wrote a chapter of a book, and I was starting to think about what do I want to do next, although I knew I wanted to do something in AI and with AI. I went through the University of Michigan Chief Data and AI Officer program, and that was a great level set foundation. But then I met this guy named Scott Klosowski, and I met him through an organization that he and I were members of called the Human Gathering. Incidentally, anyone ever hear of the Human Gathering? Yeah, it's kind of a secret society. They reached out to me in 2019, and I showed my wife the email. She's like, that's a cult. Say no, which I did, because I listen to my wife 99% of the time. And then they reached back out to me, and I ended up joining. And I'm so thankful that I did, because I met this guy, Scott Klosowski, who invented the concept of Humalogy 15 years ago. So where's the clicker at? Oh, is this it? Yeah. And so I'd like to present this visual to you to just give you kind of a perspective of what Humalogy is, and then we'll get into some more meatier topics. So bear with me, and bear with the presentation. I'm using this. Scott provided me with this presentation, this visual related to music and examples of how music runs the scale of Humalogy from only human to only technology. So as you can see, the scale here is 5 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 being just human, and the other 5 on the T side being just technology.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bad luck. Some nights I call it a draw. Some nights I wish that my lips could build a castle. Some nights I wish they just fall off, but I still wake up, I still see your ghost.
So beautiful music with just the human voice, no technology. You could say the microphones are technology, but they could easily remove those microphones and you'll still hear something beautiful. You just wouldn't be as loud and wouldn't carry as far. So we're going to move over to the next rating on the scale, and that is 4-3, and give you an example of how technology, you decide if it improves, but it certainly changes the way the music is delivered. I wish I had seen this before our daughter's weddings this past summer and fall. I would have tried to rent a marble machine, and I'm sure they would have been very pleased with that. So the next one is moving from the scale from 4-3 to 2-1, related to human versus technology.
In the place to be.
1, 2, 3.
As it is plain to see.
I feel funky. Good dog. I feel funky.
All right, you get the gist there. Now we're going to go over to the technology side of the scale. Looking at what does it look like when human and technology are on par with one another delivering music. And of course they chose the greatest band in the history of the world, Led Zeppelin, to provide you a nice example of this. I lost a trivia contest on a river cruise years ago when one of the questions was, who's the greatest band in the world? And of course I said Led Zeppelin because they are. And it was one of those contests that the most popular vote from everybody was the one that was chosen. And Van Halen was not it, surprisingly. So we're going to move to the next nodes on the scale, if you will. Does anyone remember the MP3 player? Showing our age, right? Yeah. And I'm certain there's people in the audience that have no idea what the MP3 player is. And that's fine too. And then one more as it relates to the movement of the scale from more technology, less human. And there are examples here. Scott had embedded a visual for some reason from his Apple to my Microsoft operating system. It didn't transition well. So we'll fix that for the next time I speak on this. But as you can see, there's also a 4-5, which is all technology and no human. And the example here is the eternal jukebox, which does not need human anything. It just consistently plays through technology and artificial intelligence. So just a fun way of looking at Humalogy and the scale from human to technology applications to deliver some value. And in the case of this example, it was music. So I want to talk to you a little bit about synthetic intelligence, And the title of the presentation is Architecting the Organizational Mind. And I'll get into a little bit of that. I did have this presentation, and I gave it on Monday in Sacramento at a loss pool, a risk pool association. And I started my talk with George Costanza's speech about risk management, but it was Ovaltine, because I kind of thought it would be funny for the risk pool people, and crickets. So I have to work on that delivery, so I did not try that out on you, and you can applaud if you like, but I will work on that. I thought it was appropriate, but if anyone's a Seinfeld fan. But I'll get into the meat of this now. So today, right, and yesterday, data information is stored in technology and systems. Technology is programmed to do tasks, right? And humans are monitoring these tasks and engaging with the technology. And then the decision making is predominantly done by people. And then people interact with other people to make decisions and sometimes waste time. Oh, did I say that out loud? Tomorrow, we're going. Can I go back? Let's see. I can. Premature click. Tomorrow, this idea of data and information being intelligently stored in technology that translates that data and information to knowledge, wisdom, and in a manner described as intelligence. And it's not lost on me as we continue to talk about artificial intelligence, and we've been talking about it for a few decades now, and I'm certain that you're all probably aware of that. But artificial intelligence isn't a tool necessarily. It's a value-creating capability. And I would encourage everyone, if you're talking to your teams, your leadership, your business partners, to kind of drive and steer the conversation towards this value creation capability and not necessarily a tool. I do think, I don't want to keep complimenting the previous panel, but I think there's a lot of compliments to go around. I think their conversation was right on point as it relates to humans using artificial intelligence and the value created. And someone on the panel, I can't recall who, mentioned begin with the end in mind, start with the outcomes that you want to see, and work your way backwards to determine where does artificial intelligence fit into that architecture of the organization. Another fun thing to look at is the organizational mind of Stark Industries.
Wake up, Daddy's home.
Welcome home, sir. Congratulations on the opening ceremonies. They were such a success, as was your Senate hearing. And may I say how refreshing it is to finally see you in a video with your clothing on, sir.
You! I swear to God, I'll dismantle you, I'll soak your motherboard, I'll turn you into a wine rack. How many ounces a day of this gobbledygook am I supposed to drink?
We are up to 80 ounces a day to counteract the symptoms, sir.
Check palladium levels.
Blood toxicity, 24%. It appears that the continued use of the Iron Man suit is accelerating your condition. Another core has been depleted.
God, they're running out quick.
I have run simulations on every known element, and none can serve as a viable replacement for the palladium core. You are running out of both time and options. Unfortunately, the device that's keeping you alive is also killing you. Miss Potts is approaching. I recommend that you inform her of...
So, sensational view of technology and human collaborating to provide the superhero Iron Man. Relative to the organizational mind toolbox, I'm certain we've all heard of and have talked about and are probably using some type of LLM, whether it's publicly made available or is custom developed. I'm helping a client in Connecticut. We build our own, for lack of a better phrase, ChatGPT private white labeled capability within the organization, where we are pulling in dozens of information sources that are specific to the organization and owned by the organization, including video, because all of their service representatives engage with their customers through video, through Zoom meetings. This idea of custom developed synthetic experts, so artificial intelligence that has expertise that is either doing work or advising humans about work and decisions. Developing synthetic agents, so agents acting on behalf of a particular strategy or a responsibility or activity that in the previous world was assigned to a human. Automated marketing systems. This is one of the areas, and it was mentioned in one of the discussions either today or I think it was today, because I looked at Megan and I said, it was a young lady who is a professor at Point Park, I think, mentioned automated marketing systems. Sophisticated RPA robots. That's how we got started in using AI at Wrench Group. We rolled out a number of RPA capabilities, and it proved itself in terms of value and cost again and again, because the automation that it helped with freed up human time, and then that human time was devoted to what we would consider higher value activities. Data structures, obviously very important. I gave a presentation in Tampa 2 years ago, preparing your data for AI. Digital twins, another area that I think a lot of manufacturers are taking advantage of in terms of value creation. And then AI-based security systems and AI-infused operating systems. So all of this is the toolbox of what Scott and my peers at Future Point of View refer to as the organizational mind. So if we think of the awakened organizational mind, which is, again, the organizational mind being a collaboration of a lot of assets, including humans and artificial intelligence, to produce, in essence, a mind, a brain of the organization. In the past, the organization did not own the knowledge and decision-making and problem-solving, innovative thinking. It was owned by a collective human effort. So all of you, all of the people in the organization really was the organizational mind, and technology was used just to move things along a given process within a business function. In terms of the organizational mind being built, in most cases, is not on purpose or by design, and it's just evolving as technology enters the picture in evolutionary ways, maturing the technology with the organization. And our thinking is that the O mind will get smarter through observations of the organization. So the AI observing things that are happening, not just helping with things that are happening, or in some cases doing the things that happen. The persistent organizational mind, so we went from awareness to the persistent organizational mind, meaning it's here, it's continuing to evolve. It will last as long as the organization and will never die. It works 24/7 and is never off the clock. I was talking to someone yesterday about having, in the home services industry, having AI be available when everyone is sleeping in a particular geographic area, and having AI take those calls or intake the request of a customer or a consumer that may want to be a customer. And it does informal surveillance at a depth that humans cannot do and haven't done. And the term that we use when we talk about this at FPOV is analytics factory. It's just an exponential capability of analyzing everything. And this becomes important digital asset in the organization. So what I've shared with you thus far, I suspect you've heard, but in different ways before, not in the in the parameters or the scope of what we're calling the organizational mind. And then some questions relative to the aware organizational mind. Will the O mind become sentient or cognitive? How fast could this happen? And should we be inspired or leery of this progress? Someone mentioned the word afraid at one of the panel discussions, that we should not be afraid of AI, we should run to AI. And I'm a big believer in that. And I think that, there's always going to be bad guys and bad gals out there that want to do nefarious things. The incidence of cybersecurity events happening today versus 10 years ago versus 10 years before that is staggering in terms of volume. But that's why we have good partners that are thinking about these things, thinking ahead, and putting preventative measures in place and tools in place and using AI to prevent something bad from happening. So, quick question here. As we talk about the human mind, there's several pieces of criteria that exist within our own human minds, and that's perception, imagination, learning and thinking, emotions, memory, self-awareness, willpower, and consciousness. And so when you think about the synthetic mind and you try to answer the question, can the synthetic mind have these characteristics? We've done internally within FPOV an analysis of that, and what we've come to realize is perception is a yes, imagination is partial for now. Learning and thinking, yes. Emotions. The AI can sense based on rules and trends and observations of this, but it hasn't reached the level of emotion yet. Memory, yes. Self-awareness, partially. Willpower, and then consciousness, TBD. And that's someone mentioned, and I keep pointing back to that panel discussion because I'm anxious to watch it on video when Hike 2 releases that video. Someone mentioned this idea of humans and AI working together for good, not just for the organization, but for good for the community. And this idea of consciousness, that the AI has become aware of itself, can be a slippery slope. And we all saw the movie Tron, and whatever the sequel was to Tron, and I forget the name of it. But AI recognizing that it's AI and that it exists in a particular capacity in our world, probably not someplace we want to be, and that's why controls are really, really important. So building a strategy. I've worked with Scott and some of the other consultants at FPOV in helping clients build their AI strategy over the course of the past year and a half. And we've developed a number of frameworks and methodologies on how to get an organization that doesn't have an AI strategy, may have some AI use cases stood up and rolled out and deployed, but the bigger picture thinking on the AI strategy as it relates to the organizational mind, looking at the intelligence layer of the organization, and then building these components and competencies for the organizational mind. And nothing is ever written in stone. You tweak it along the way, and you learn along the way. And what your AI strategy in 2026 is may not be your AI strategy in 2028. So we also work with clients on something we call not only data harvesting, but AI use case harvesting. And so, and I talked a little bit about this during one of our breaks with some folks as it relates to capability model building. If you have your organization's capability models on a piece of paper or pieces of paper, let me run with that analogy, in a visual, right? And you determine and work with your key stakeholders at the executive and at the management level on what capabilities, if we mature them, will produce the greatest value to the organization. Now you can start talking about, okay, within those capabilities, what are the data reference architectures that make that capability work? And then you look at how do I apply AI to move the needle of maturation for that capability, if in fact that capability is on your heat map for evolution or for maturity. A question that you're going to need to ask yourself as you build out your AI architecture and you build the organizational mind strategy is how will your people co-work with the organizational mind? And what does that evolution look like? Some real quick impacts. I do want to get to some salient points in some of these slides. I'll just page through this real quick because, as I mentioned, my fault. I didn't adjust this for a 45-minute presentation, and I should have. But I will make this available to you. I think the last slide has a QR code that you can take a picture of, and it'll take you to one of our web forms so that you can get a copy of this in PDF form if you like. This one is in particular interest to me because I've spent so much time in mergers and acquisitions earlier in my career, and then more recently as it relates to cybersecurity as a CIO. I didn't have a CISO. I had a manager of risk, and so for all intent and purpose, the buck stopped with me if it came to any type of security incident that needed to be prevented or occurred, right? And in your organizations, if you don't already have a risk register, I would encourage you to look into how to build one. From my perspective, that was the easiest way for me to talk to our CEO, our COO, our CFO, and the board about why I needed this budget to bring cybersecurity capabilities to the organization and evolve them. And certainly AI has a place here in today's environment and the future. So when we talk about AI architecture and orchestration, I mean, there we go. It's very much like what we've learned and applied in the past, where you have a business architecture, capabilities and processes that are tied to strategy, mission, and vision, and you have a technology architecture, which is really all of the spatial and cognitive relationships between systems and data and people. When we talk about AI first architecture, it's not that dissimilar from business architecture or technical architecture. It's just another viewpoint into the organization as we talk about building that organizational mind. And I like this. There's dozens of views of this, right? And if you went out and you use one of the commercially available AI tools, and you ask, provide me 12 AI architectures that I can bring to my organization to use, you're going to get 12. This is the one that the Chief Architect Network rolled out a few weeks ago, of which I'm a part of, and I'll be in London meeting with all those folks in a couple of weeks. And it's the one I like the most because it's simple. It's simple in that the layer, the intelligence and automation layer, you can explain through the visuals that you see here to business-oriented executives and leaders. The semantic layer is going to get into a little bit more of a logic-oriented view of your AI architecture. And then the data products and data-owned reusable assets, which was part of my presentation in Tampa a little over a year ago, talks specifically about if you think about how master data management has evolved in the organization, this is the same area that is both an asset and a need to continue to deliver opportunities and artifacts that support all of these areas in any given industry. So, this one has claims data, so obviously it was built for an insurance business, but you could substitute various assets of data in this layer for your organization, whether it be manufacturing or healthcare or whatever it might be. And then this idea of AI-ready data management, that's putting foundational capabilities in place and governance in place so that you're managing the AI data and the assets that you're bringing to bear for the business community and your partners to use to execute your business model. And I go back to that comment. I apologize. I don't think I know her name. She was sitting on this far. She's the Point Park University professor. What? Yes. Yes, that's her. She made a point to begin with the end in mind, and I think there's absolute application when you're talking about building your AI first architecture by starting with that end in mind. And here's the thing: at any given time, potentially quarter by quarter, but maybe not. But certainly by year, that end that end in mind changes, right? Market conditions force you to, or reveal new opportunities so that you might be thinking differently in 27 than you are in 26 when you're talking about the end in mind. I left the risk pool comment in there. And I tried to steer the conversation and my presentation of the information to the risk pool industry in Sacramento. So operationalizing AI in 2026. When we think about the value curve of AI, there are a couple of phases that we at FPOV believe all organizations go through as they seek to use AI to execute their business model, serve their strategy, and create value within their organization. And I lost my, can you hear me? Yep. And that's beginning with foundations. And that's the experimenting phase. So just a show of hands real quick, how many have filled their organizations have been successful in the foundations phase, experimenting with AI? Quick show of hands. 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. The next phase is operationalizing. So that's truly embedding AI into the operations of your organization, whether it's in one business unit or multiple business units. This goes beyond that experimentation and starts to introduce use case realization into the organization, where you define a particular use case, like I did with my client in Connecticut, building our search agent and building our AI-enabled coaching tool is our next one we're going to deploy here in a couple of weeks. And the next area is achieving. So that's actually being confident that you can point to an AI deployment and be satisfied that it has produced measurable value within the organization. And so in terms of years, foundation experimenting occurred in 2022, 2023, 24, and probably 25. And there are some organizations that I think are late to the party for a variety of reasons. There are organizations in 25 that are still doing the experimenting and creating the foundation. And we like meeting those organizations because we think we can help them get them to operationalizing quicker. And so we're here in 26. Our view is that about 40% of the organizations could say they're operationalizing, that they're in this phase, plus or minus. And then in 2030, between 2030 and 2032, we're forecasting that that same percentage of organizations are going to turn the corner and start to be able to claim measurable value with the use of AI. Now, if you go out there and use a commercially available AI tool today and you ask the question, tell me about organizations that have created measurable value in deploying AI, you're going to get the usual suspects. You're going to get Amazon, you're going to get Walmart and Chase and JP Morgan. You're going to get those because they've been very public about the wins that they've gotten in deploying AI. And I think Amazon in particular created or shared that they have a 40% gain in their warehouse inventory with the application of AI. This is important because Cyber News study reported that 59% of employees use unapproved AI tools at work, and 75% of those admit to sharing sensitive data. Not good, right? And so you need to also look not only in the opportunities that exist to advance your business model, to evolve the maturity of your capabilities, to create new value and enhance value that's been created thus far. You also need to look at the cybersecurity implications of AI and your workforce, your humans, using commercially available tools. So, someone mentioned the need for AI policy, acceptable use policy. Yeah, if your organizations don't have something like that, you definitely want to devote time to producing that. And one of the things that we help organizations do is to create those policies based on their business model, based on the size of the organization, based on their growth forecast. Okay, I do want to leave time at the end for questions. In terms of the definition of operationalizing AI, we threw some statements together that we think provide a strong point of view on what that definition is. You have to have leadership team support and commitment to push that agenda forward. And I read an article on LinkedIn not too long ago, and it was more of a debate, and it created a history of commentary from some experts and some people just looking to get some attention on LinkedIn as it relates to who should own the AI strategy in the organization. Should it be the CIO? Should it be the chief data officer? Should it be the CEO? My answer is all of the above. And yeah, you do want to have a single point of leadership when it comes to something like deploying a new technology. But at the end of the day, I look at the CEO as the owner of everything, quite frankly, and the CIO more as the navigator of the use of technology to improve those business capabilities in service of the strategy of the organization. Even adoption of AI tools across departments. So some more forward-thinking department leads may be working with vendors. I mean, we've seen this happen before in the past. Organizations that may not, or leaders in organizations that believe they can get there quicker by tapping a vendor and not working with the internal AI in IT organization. The challenge with that is, yeah, I could produce value for a one-off, but you're skipping the whole architecture part. So you're not feeding the organizational mind for future gains and future benefits and future value. And then we're making mature decisions with AI architecture, applications, and platforms versus the one-off, business leader that may be using a vendor to stand up some type of AI capability absent of the involvement of the IT organization. And then, of course, on the investment side, there's a commitment of investment toward the use of AI in the organization. And again, from our perspective, standing up use cases is a very healthy thing to do, but if you haven't done that yet, I would say in parallel to standing up those use cases, I would have some sort of architecture leader, either internal to your organization, or there are plenty capable people in the consulting world, I know a few, that can help you build that architecture of the AI, or of the organizational mind, while you're standing up these use cases. So again, watering and feeding your future capabilities. I left this in here, and I'm not a fan of this slide for obvious reasons. It's kind of messy. I think it looks better on the Apple, so I'm going to just skip that for now. The new technology stack. So when we talk about technology in the world of AI, we're talking about data infrastructure governance. We talked a little bit about that. Obviously, software, right? Intelligence, which is that knowledge layer, right? Data, information, knowledge, wisdom. And then, of course, the humans, which we're referring to as the digital centaurs. These are the assets of the organization that are using AI, are augmented by AI, and in some cases are managing AI. One of the panelists in the last panel made the point to mention that individual performers are going to manage something. If it's not a human, it's a bot or an AI capability. So this is the new technology stack that we're looking at for organizations moving into the future with AI. And we always want AI to do it with us, not to us. So just to walk down memory lane to come back around to the Humalogy scale, we've got some visuals here that represent 1980, 2020, 2025, the year we just left. And so our point of view, our future point of view, is that 2025 is kind of where humans and technology collaborated equally together. And, equally is a relative term. Equally could mean 50-50, it could mean 60-40, but it's somewhere in there. And what we're projecting is by 2030, back to the previous slide that I showed you, the technology is going to be more pervasive as an asset within the organization to lead that organizational mind evolution than humans are. But humans are just going to have different roles. And the last panel mentioned that. And then further, we don't know, it could be 2035, it could be 2040. We're going to see technology becoming much more of a consistent asset in the organization. So people's roles are going to change. Back in 2002, I was at CNA Insurance in Chicago. I led the organizational change management group. I led benefits realization group, and I led the Six Sigma group. And we took tablets to all of our regional offices, and we asked them to tell us what they were doing at any given point in time during the week. We had a list of 100 tasks. We built these bell curves, and we saw how much time was being spent on what we considered low-value activities. And our goal was to implement technology to change that formula, to take the amount of time people spending on low-value activities, applying technology to cover those tasks and activities, and moving the humans to the higher-value activities within the organization. I want to leave some time for questions, and I'm running out of time. So this is just a view of the co-working intelligence outcomes of the organization that, back to the begin with the end in mind, look at this and ask the question, what does this mean for my organization? So if we're talking about goals for hybrid intelligence, more capable decision making, where? What capabilities do I want to see more capable decision making? Higher productivity, where? Let's look at the capability model and pinpoint those capabilities that higher productivity moves the needle on my key performance indicators of the business. Solving problems not solved before, and fulfilled and happy team members. So co-working, they mentioned various roles and the changing of those roles. We view this as kind of three basic skill types. There's the AI user, there's the AI maker, someone within the organization or a business partner, a vendor partner that's helping build AI capabilities. And then there's the developer. And that's where it gets into the delivery of AI within your processes of your organization, looking at those processes and asking the question, how can I embed AI in this process to either take the majority of the heavy lifting of this process or augmenting my human resources? I love this slide. This is my favorite slide. Co-working with AI tools will advance humanity in ways we are only dreaming about today. So not just the business value creation, but as mentioned in the previous panel, what are we giving back to the community?